Hello, everyone. My name is Will Rycroft, and I'm the Audience Development Manager at Waterstones. And it's a great pleasure to be here today to talk to Charlie Mackesy, the author of The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, and winner of the Illustrator of the Year award. Charlie, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you so much.
This book was obviously a huge hit in 2019, but it has become something of a sensation in 2020 with lots of readers using it to sort of cope with the pandemic. Did that come as a surprise to you?
Well, the pandemic was definitely a surprise, and it's always a surprise to me. Well, it's a lovely surprise that it helps anyone. I mean, that was the dream of the drawings in the first place, was to sort of help people make sense of existence. So when the pandemic came, I think we always had this strange sense, like the year we were making it, that there was something brewing. It was a strange feeling, and I did feel this sense of urgency to make the book, but I didn't know why. So yeah, it's really moving that um, I hear from a lot of people still who tell me all kinds of things that the book's done for them, and yeah, that's what more could you ask for, you know?
You hinted a bit there about the sort of the original intent behind the book. Would
Yeah.
you mind sort of saying a bit more about what that was and how that's changed over time?
Well, the original intent, oddly, was well, firstly, was not to make a book. It was to make a series of drawings around the issues of existence and what matters and what doesn't matter, and you know I wanted to sort of write conversations between the characters about acceptance, self-acceptance, love, kindness, meaning, why we're here, and then we formed a book out of those drawings, and always the sort of motive and desire for the drawings was really to sort of encourage people to feel better about themselves and to feel perhaps more kind towards themselves and all those very basic things, but done in a way that isn't kind of telling people what to feel, but more sharing uh, a conversation, a journey between of four characters and their conversations they would have about what we really want, what we really fear, what's difficult, how we can cope with life, and the original intent was just for me to share like these ideas with these characters. And then when the book was made, I think um, I wasn't really sure if anybody would really like the book. I mean, I thought my friends would, and I thought maybe some Instagram followers might like it. But when we were making it, there were quite a lot of there were quite a few voices saying, "Oh, you need to write more story. There needs to be more narrative. It's a bit of a strange book you've made." And I thought, well, you're right. It is an odd book, but in the same breath, I don't really want to do anything than what is in my instinct and gut to do, which was to write as simply as possible. When people ask me, how does it feel, to have such a successful book, I just say, well, I just genuinely feel, and I say this a lot and feel this a lot, that the success of it is really not the sales. I mean, it's lovely to sell books, but it's more what I hear from people about, whether it's in a hospital, in a rehab, in a school, an old lady. I get old ladies who write to me around the world saying, I'm 91 or 78 or whatever, and I have your book by my bed and I read it every night. Or I get letters from people who've just lost their husbands through COVID, or kids who are struggling with anxiety. All these people that I hear from and respond to and engage with sort of daily, um, you know, they they they're really my success. They're the people I think, well, that's why I did it. Um, or a boy who told me he decided not to take his life because he decided to ask for help instead. He just happened to was given the book. So to me, that's more than ever I could have wished for, and more than I dreamt of. And if someone had said to me, here's the brief, you're going to make a book that does these things, I wouldn't have known where to start. I just wouldn't have known how to begin to do that. But I just began by drawing this boy and these three animals, the mole, I mean, and the fox, and I suppose just try to convey as honestly and as vulnerably as possible the things that I think matter.
You've spoken a little bit about that process of moving from Instagram to this printed book, which is this very tactile thing. Even in a year of social distancing, booksellers have loved having this book to hand sell to people. And then, of course, in the past year, the lives of these characters have also been extended slightly with the other work that you've been doing. And so I guess my question is, what might be next? Dare we hope for a follow-up book in the future?
Well, I recorded the audiobook in the barn in here, and because it's largely, it's a graphic novel, and I'd say it's 60 or 70% drawings. To make an audiobook, I had to rewrite it. So I had to describe the pictures because you couldn't see them in an audiobook. And that process made me think more deeply about the characters themselves. And, I had to really think about, not their backstory, but, just how they'd move or how they'd, whatever. And so I did start then thinking, well, maybe there's more to say here. I never felt like I should just do another book because that's what you should do. I would only do one if I felt there was more to say that hadn't been said. And I think through the pandemic, quite a lot's been said that I hadn't said. And so I've been recently looking through them all, and on Instagram, and all the scribbles around here, and of which there are really many. And I keep feeling, I think there probably is. It is another book. I mean, I don't know whether people would like it or not. I don't. So all I'll do is follow the scent of it, if you like, and start feeling my way along a narrative, feeling my way along the storm that we've been in, feeling my way along conversations they haven't had, maybe about grief or loss or other things. So hopefully I will do one. As you can see, this behind me, straight behind me there, is a storyboard that I've been working on for a film. And again, that has, I've never made a film before, but I've been in Zoom calls for months and making drawings for animation. And again, that has raised, it's actually strangely, to be honest, made me want to really, it's endeared me to making books, because I really miss bookmaking process. The filmmaking process is so complicated and so demanding on so many levels, not least like this Zoom thing. And there's something really beautiful about making a book that is simple and it's paper, and it's an object that you can sit in a room and make yourself and draw. And this award, for instance, is really, it's really moving to get it, because it's sort of, it's sort of an encouragement to carry on, really, and to keep making the drawings and keep thinking, and hopefully, it will have some merit, and hopefully, there'll be things in it that may help people again. We'll see, but it'll be a long journey. It's not. I won't be able to just knock it out. If you know what I mean.
We will be patient, Charlie. We will keep our fingers crossed. As I said, for us as booksellers, this book has been an absolute gift for us to sell to readers out there. So we're incredibly grateful, and obviously wish you all the best with the success of it in the future, and indeed whatever might come next. Congratulations once again, Charlie. Hello everyone, I'm Will Rycroft, Audience Development Manager at Waterstones, and it is a great pleasure to be speaking with David Olusoga, who is writer, broadcaster and author of Children's Illustrated and Non-Fiction Book of the Year, Black and British. David, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to ask how you decided when adapting this book for children what would work for them, and whether you also had their parents in mind when you were doing it.
Well, I had lots of really great advice from my friends and my colleagues at Pan Macmillan. I guess at the center of what I tried to do was to think about the people, about the characters, about the figures from this history who I wish I'd got to know when I was younger. I was 16 when I bought my first book on Black British history, and I would love to have met some of these people, Ignatius Sancho and Mary Prince and Dido Bell. I would have loved to have met them when I was younger. So I thought very much about them, but I very much thought about parents, because it was parents who made me want to write this book, because parents kept saying that they liked the adult book, but it was 600 pages long, and that I really should write something for children. And so many parents literally stopped me on the streets and asked me to write this book, that I started listening to them, and I decided, I think it must have been in late 2019, that this was something I really had to do, never mind wanted to do. And I saw it as a responsibility to bring this history to a wider audience.
Yeah, it's subtitled a short, essential history, but obviously the book contains several jumping off points so that kids can find out more. Is that something that you had in mind when you were creating this shorter version?
Well, again, I had lots and lots of advice. This is the first book for children that I've written, and I listened very carefully. A lot of my family are teachers or educationalists, and I understood what I don't understand. I understood that there was a lot about writing for children to learn and to think about. So I took lots and lots of advice, and from the publishers, but also from members of my family.
Now, of course, the original book was published 3 years ago now, but it feels like we're only now just starting to really acknowledge this more complete history. Do you see that progress is being made?
I think lots of progress is being made. I think if you were going to imagine yourself back to the beginning of last year and you envisaged how much progress, how much debate and discussion we might have about these issues, and then you think about what's actually happened, I think that shows you that we've gone further than we could have imagined. The problem is we've been static for a long time. We haven't wanted to confront aspects of our history that we as a nation are uncomfortable about. And the problem is that the parts of our history that we don't want to talk about are the parts that are where we interconnect with people from African heritage, but also people from Asian heritage and other parts of the world. There's a lot to be done, but these are shared histories. This is British history, and we need to confront it. And the great thing about younger people is they don't feel any reason why they wouldn't want to embrace this history. They aren't nervous about it.
It's been an extraordinary year for everybody, this year of social distancing, and yet this is yet another book which has been a real physical hit, the kind of book that booksellers want to press into people's hands when they come in and they're asking for books like this. How important is it for you that this is the kind of book that booksellers want to sell?
Well, that's been a real wonderful thing to hear. I mean, I've seen, because of social media, lots of people, lots of libraries buying the book. I've seen lots of parents sending pictures of their children reading the book, and that's kind of really, really special. A woman sent me the picture of her and her daughter on their sofa, with her reading the adult version and her daughter reading the children's version, and it's so moving. To see that picture. It means more than I thought it could mean.
Publishing, of course, has got its own history to reckon with. I wonder whether you see much change happening in that industry.
Well, I've been part of the Guild of Black Writers, and I've sat in on some of the conversations that have been had with publishers, and it's a bit like the other place that I work, which is television. I do see conversations and a seriousness about those conversations that I've never seen before. I see actions and a willingness to acknowledge failures of the past that I've not seen before. That's an enormous step forward. But the problem is there's been lots of inaction in publishing and television, in most of the arts. Most of the liberal media has failed quite profoundly over recent decades. So we've got a long way to go, and we have the failures of past decades as a sort of burden, an additional burden as we move forward. But I do see more change and more willingness for change than I've ever seen before, and that's a positive.
As I was saying earlier, this is this strange year that we've all had where we've been sort of locked away. In many ways, has been a catalyst for a lot of people to think about how to remake the world when they come back out again. Is it possible that that gives you more hope that progress will be made faster?
Well, I think on these issues about race and racism and history and imperialism, I think there's been more engagement than I've ever witnessed before. People have gone out because of the terrible events of May last year and the murder of George Floyd. People who I think had the will, who had the openness to want to engage with these issues, suddenly found that they had the time. And I think this huge amount of reading and engagement and discussion that's taken place in the summer of Black Lives Matter and into this year, I think it would be churlish to not see that as a positive. I think there's been a level of debate and discussion I've never seen before, and I think that's informed people. I think people come out of lockdown, hopefully, more informed, more engaged with these issues than they ever have been previously, and I think there's a lot of positivity to take from that.
There is going to be a follow-up book. Are you able to tell us a little about what it will cover?
There's going to be a book for younger children. So it will cover the same history, but it will be aimed for the younger brothers and sisters of the children who I hope have read this book.
We will look forward to seeing a photograph of possibly 3 generations of a family reading the same book at the same time. David, congratulations once again on winning Children's Illustrated and Non-Fiction Book of the Year.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nigel Wyman. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Gardners. On behalf of everyone at Gardners, I'd like to extend a huge congratulations to all the winners tonight. As many of you will know, Gardners has been at the heart of the book trade for over 35 years. From humble beginnings, we now span over 2 warehouse facilities with a combined footprint of over 500,000 square feet. We goods in over 200,000 titles every day and can reach over 400,000 at busier times. Now that's a heck of a lot of picking and packing. Incredible team and technological investments, namely our state-of-the-art high bays, are vital to how we work. All this combined are the fundamentals behind us and the very high standards we strive to achieve. We look forward to meeting you again face to face very soon.
I think I was on the school run or driving, so I got that ping on my phone, pulled over and checked it. I was like, oh my gosh.
I'm sure that when I heard the news, I was sitting exactly here and probably on the phone to my publisher at Pan Macmillan. The last 12 months, I have not been many other places than here.
Oh gosh, where was I? Do you know, I can't actually remember where I was at the time. I've just had a baby, so I was probably like juggling him, changing a nappy or something.
So I was at home, I had an email from my publisher, and I think I just squealed and then probably had a little cry, I think, because it just felt like such a huge moment for the series.
I was at the beach with children, which was a regular place when we were locked down, and someone just phoned on my mobile. So it was very windy and I couldn't quite believe what I was hearing. But then I had to go to somewhere more sheltered, and then I began to believe it. So no, it was such a lovely place to get a lovely phone call.
So we've got some very stiff competition. We were extremely shocked and delighted. We just found out we were shortlisted. Genuinely, being shortlisted and being recognized, and having our publishing team be recognized at kind of such a high level within the industry is so wonderful, and we're thrilled about that.
It's as a debut author, I really never expected this, so I'm just over the moon, totally.
It was just absolutely incredible news. I think just such an honour to be on a shortlist with such incredible names as well. It really was mind-blowing.
I'm incredibly grateful to Dirk, especially Dirk, for always having believed in it and for having made it.
You're predominantly on your own, especially this sort of last year. And so even though you kind of have, in an abstract sense, the sense that your book's doing well out there, none of it, anything that makes it feel real is lovely, and this would make it feel real.
Kind of terrifying with people who write real books. I know that sounds like a ridiculous thing to say, but I always see it as the book was always an extension of my blog. So the fact that it did so well was amazing, and then the fact that it continued to do well, and then when we kept breaking records, I was like, oh God, this is scary. But then when this came through, and obviously, the publishers and my team were all so excited. And I was like, okay, this is all new to me. They're like, it's like the book Oscars. And then I was like, oh my God, I get it. Oh my God. So yeah, I had an oh my God moment.
How of Kylie Reid's book actually on my shelf behind me. I thought it was brilliant.
Several of them. I've read Thursday Murder Club, which I thought was just brilliant. And I actually read it while I was had a real tiny newborn. So I was it was the middle of the night doing feeds with him, and there's something very comforting about I was actually quite looking forward to those middle of the night feeds because I could just read a bit more of the book on my Kindle.
Another one that I really enjoyed myself is another title that's on this award. The Caroline skincare book was such a fantastic book. I really enjoyed reading that.
We love anything by MG Leonard, and actually my daughter is a huge fan of her series, so she was particularly excited to see the Adventures on Train series there.
Well, I had the opportunity to interview Matthew McConaughey on my podcast about Green Lights. I've read the book, and it's an absolutely brilliant book, and also read most of Promised Land as well by Barack Obama, so that was a phenomenal read as well.
It's always gratifying when you've spent a long time working at something for it to make its way in the world in the good way, and so I've been very grateful for that.
Oh, the response has been so wonderful. I've had responses from children who feel like they've seen themselves in a book for the first time, or have seen a family that reflects their family. I've had responses from children who have learned something new through reading the series.
The feedback that I think we get the most is probably that it's an exciting dragon adventure, which is exactly what we were trying to achieve with this.
And we hear a lot from parents who say maybe it's the first book that maybe their child's been able to read, from start to finish on their own, which is really wonderful to hear. What's really nice is we hear a lot from parents, both boys and girls, how much that their child has enjoyed it, which again, going with kind of an ensemble cast, we were really hoping to achieve that. So that's super satisfying. And we love hearing from kids that it's kind of inspired their own imagination, which is of course what you're always hoping for.
The feedback I've had from the audiobook has been phenomenal, because I think people have just felt my heart and soul through the book. And so for me, the audiobook allows any author, if they want, to have the most personal, intimate relationship with their audience, where they're really with you in all those scenarios. And
it sort of just completely bamboozles me of why someone would want to read a book about the goings on of my life in a year, but it's incredible.
They come up with new ideas for every book, and for the evening and the morning they came up with the idea of having a Kingsbridge festival, so that fans of the Kingsbridge books all over the world actually could get excited about this. It's great for the author, you know, that when people at the publishing house are really racking their brains to do something new and different, and it's exciting, and it gives you faith in the publisher.
In terms of like the editorial relationship I have with my editor, Francis Bickmore, it's kind of like telepathy now. I kind of know his sort of taste and the things he will point out, and I know when to listen to him, when to be stubborn and sort of fight my own battles, and it's just a very relaxed kind of creative relationship.
We published this book in July and it went to print as we're going into our first lockdown, and the logistics and the navigation about all the craziness that happened with the pandemic, especially to the book world. I'm just in amazement of how they dealt with that, and we published on time and everything went relatively smoothly, and it was just really fantastic to see how well they handled it all.
There's so much belief in the story, and I think that is not anything you can sort of disguise. You see that in when the publishers are pitching the story and talking about it. So I think there was a lot of support for the story from the moment it was in manuscript form and it still needed to be put into shape right till after it was published. So I feel very, very, very privileged and very thankful to have had such an amazing team behind me.
We knew that there was obviously a demand for it because it became the fastest selling thing Audible had ever put up. Sort of getting baffled emails telling us the speed with which they were shifting units on Sandman was outselling, the Harry Potters, which up until that time had been their fastest sellers and stuff. So that kind of thing was like astonishing.
I actually can't fault Tinder Press at all. I feel incredibly fortunate to be working with them, right from the moment where I handed a manuscript to Mary Ann to the design of the absolutely exquisite cover. I've never seen a book as beautiful as that. And also my publicist, Georgina Moore, who does an incredible job. And I think it's just been a joy from start to finish, actually, and always has been.
Having a dance with people. I really miss just like dancing. Actually, I think that was one of the scenes I loved writing in the guest list the most, was the kind of the bit where everyone's a bit pissed and kind of on the dance floor, and it's getting all a bit loose. That's the bit of a wedding I love, and I really miss that.
I'd be looking forward to more time spent outside. That's for sure.
Look forward to so many things. I think if I had to pin it down, the thing I'm really missing is going to for a nice long pub lunch with family, with extended family who haven't seen.
I really, really miss writing in a cafe. I had never written at home before this happened, and so it was really difficult to get into that writing at home mode. But I'm ready now to go out there and listen to other people's conversation and just have a cup of coffee in my hand, takeaway cup, and just write in the sun. Can't wait to do that.
But mainly to just feel free. That's what I've missed, to feel free again, to know that the sadness has lifted and that we can all continue as normal, and whatever that normal may be, really.
We didn't get to do a book launch, and I love a book launch.
Love that. And obviously, we come dressed in our best dragon gear.
Yeah.
And also, I think school events I'm really excited for as well. Actually being back in schools.
Evening all, I'm Caroline Hirons. You may not know my face, but I know yours. Skincare can be a minefield, so if you need some help demystifying the science, debunking the myths, and understanding what your skin needs, well, you're in the right place. Skincare, the new book by me, Caroline Hirons, out now.
Hello everybody, my name is Fleur Sinclair and I am the owner of the Seven Oaks Bookshop, and it gives me very, very great pleasure to introduce the winner of the British Book Awards 2021 Author of the Year, Richard Osman.
Hello Fleur, how are you?
Oh, many, many congratulations, Richard.
Thank you. Last time I saw you was down in your beautiful Seven Oaks bookshop.
I know. We were very, very lucky to have you come and do a socially distant signing with us, which is one of the questions I was going to ask you, actually, of what it's been like publishing in a year where it's been so hard to meet readers and do live events.
Well, honestly, I think it's been a lot easier being an author than being a bookseller. I'll say that. I don't know how you lot have got through it, the skills you've shown and the resilience and the enthusiasm, and to come out the other side of it is extraordinary. So from all authors I know to all booksellers, thank you so much for that. And it's interesting because, listen, it'd be fun to meet people and chat and talk about the books and do lovely big live events. And, every time I went down to independent bookshops, it's lovely because I'm meeting the booksellers and we're signing and chatting away and having a lovely cup of tea. And honestly, it was really good fun. But there's no, you're not getting people milling about and sort of coming in and chatting, and that's been a shame. But I think that it's been incredibly nice, I think, for lots of authors to know that people have read books and have felt, that it's taken them out of the reality of the world for a little while. So I think, honestly, from an author's point of view, I think it's been one of those years where I think it's sort of nice that we've been able to be helpful in some ways. And I think that the rest of the industry has had it much, much, much harder. So it's, listen, let's just hope next year everything just goes back to, do you remember normal? Let's hope it all goes back to that.
Honestly, all fingers crossed and everything, all the superstitions, just we'll believe in them for now. So back to your book. In your acknowledgements, you say that writing a book is its own reward, but it's been so loved by so many readers, and the success has just been so phenomenal. I just wondered, did it achieve what you'd hoped or what you'd expected?
Well, hoped and expected are two very different, two big words, aren't they, Fleur? Did it achieve what I expected? No. Did it achieve what I hoped? No. Even if you'd asked me, look, what's my greatest hope? Then it wouldn't have been the amount of books that were sold and the reaction it's had and winning this award. I wouldn't have expected any of those things. I really wouldn't. Like in my TV job, all I want to try and do, because I really loved writing the book. And all I wanted to do is sell enough copies that someone would let me write another one. And so that was my hope. My expectation, I thought, look, I'm on TV, so I'm sure in week one, we could probably drive some sales into shops, and that's nice, lovely for everyone, isn't it? And I can have a brief moment in the sun. And as you all know better than anyone, after week one, books are entirely about word of mouth. They're entirely about people telling friends, and they're entirely about booksellers telling customers. I didn't have any control over whether people liked the book or not, and I'm very grateful that they did, I have to say. But yeah, my hopes and expectations were, I was thinking, I hope this is the start of a long career of writing novels, and still hope that. And everything else has been insane. I mean, really, just, and around the world as well, which has been lovely. But it's been lovely to be a good thing in a bad year.
I think that's very, very nicely put. And you have said as well that you didn't want to be, I know you mentioned that, like, you know, being on TV would hopefully help it in the first week, but you said you didn't want to be just another celebrity author, and you wanted the book to work in its own right. So I just wondered, do you feel sort of pleased and think that it did, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I think so. I do think so. And lots of people come up to me in the street now and talk to me about the books and about the next book and wanting to read the next book. And, you know, I read very little sniffy stuff out there about saying, oh, this is a celebrity book, and from other authors, very little sniffy stuff. And I think they recognise that I did it for real and that it comes from the heart and all of those things. And, you know, people like Ruth Jones and Graham Norton, who had, in the years before me, written books that were just phenomenal. And I think they really paved the way. I think people understood that you can be someone on television and a creative and a writer and become a novelist at the age of 50 in the same way that anyone can become a novelist at the age of 50. So I think that was useful. I think it's useful for me that around the world, people have bought it and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, because they don't know who I am from TV. So I think that, look, there'll always be some sniffiness, and that's absolutely fine, because the upside for me of my, you know, public profile is much better than the downside. But yeah, I think I'd be very happy just to be judged on the book. I'll say that, and on the next one as well.
Wow, you say the next one. I know that's something that so many people will want to hear about. So I don't know, what can you tell us about the Thursday Murder Book 2?
Well, it's called The Man Who Died Twice. How can that be, Fleur?
How can that be? I'm going to have to read it.
Yeah. Everyone who survives the first book returns. Everyone who's alive or at liberty at the end of the first book returns. Listen, I would say this, wouldn't I? But I think people who love the first one will love the second one. I think it's really good. I like it. It's got a really good ending. I'll say that for it.
Something that we can all look forward to. And I think the final question I'd like to ask you, just back to the award, because as Author of the Year, you are following Bernardine Evaristo, and then before her, Philip Pullman. And I just wondered, tell us what that means. What does that mean to you?
Oh, I was thinking halfway through, where's this question going, Fleur? It's no, listen, it's phenomenal, and I don't take it lightly. And I do think that part of the fact that people know who I am and the success of the book means, you know, there is a responsibility to be an ally for other writers and for literature as a whole. And obviously, I concentrate much more on crime fiction. I try and promote as much of that as I possibly can. And, you know, so I take that responsibility seriously. I really take the responsibility of sending people to their local bookshops seriously, whether it's the smallest indies or the chains, you know, whatever is in your high street, you know, go and buy that. And, you know, I think that I love writing because it's just me sitting at a screen, but I love being part of a team more. And the thing that I've enjoyed about this process is, firstly, I'm part of the team at the publishers, and that's lovely. But then I feel part of this big team of booksellers and the crime reading community and the reading community around Britain. And I'll do everything I can do to encourage that. And, you know, it's a lovely springboard to be able to do that. And listen, you can see how amazing Bernardine and Philip Pullman are at promoting literature of all types. And hopefully I can do the same. Mine might be a tiny bit more middle brow than some of theirs, but that's okay.
I think we want all the stories. We want all the stories for all the people, all the time. So thank you, Richard.
congratulations on your special prize on the 20th anniversary of Noughts and Crosses. When I first read it, I was still a teacher, and I remember sharing it with my year sixes, and I realised just how powerful YA fiction can be. And to be honest, and I've said this before, I don't know if I would be a YA author if it hadn't been for Noughts and Crosses. So it's had a huge impact on me, as well as millions of readers.
What does Noughts and Crosses mean for me? Well, Malorie, you are the shoulders that I stand on. Not throwing any shade on your shoulders, they're great shoulders, but without you, I wouldn't even begin to think about writing the things that I write about. But you know what? Even more importantly, you got my daughter reading again. So thank you and congratulations.
It's just done so much. Its reach has been so long, and it has meant so much to so many people that there's been something there to enjoy and something to learn for all of us.
Hi everyone, Malorie Blackman here, and look at what I'm holding. The YA Book Prize Special Achievement Award. I believe this is only the third one. It was originally awarded to the phenomenal Melvin Burgess, author of Junk, which was the book that inspired me to write YA books in the first place, so thank you, Melvin. And also to Stripes Publishing and the authors of the YA anthology, A Change Is Going to Come. So I count myself as being so lucky to be in such incredible company. So thank you so much to all those who selected me for this special award. I am thrilled and honoured to receive it. When I sat down to write Noughts and Crosses, I had no idea how it was going to be received, but I knew I wouldn't be able to write anything else until I got Callum and Seffi's story out of my system. And now, some 20 years later, I have just finished writing Endgame, the very last book in the Noughts and Crosses series. So receiving this award feels like really serendipitous timing. So once again, thank you.
Racism is taught. No one is born a racist.
The winner of the YA Book Prize 2021 is Loveless by Alice Oseman. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for awarding me, wait for it, the YA Book Prize 2021 for my fourth YA novel, Loveless. I don't even know what to say. I'm just very, very grateful to everyone who's read Loveless, to all the people who chose it as the winner. Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
My name is Fleur Sinclair. I'm the owner of the Seven Oaks Bookshop, and it is an incredible honour and a very great pleasure for me to introduce Douglas Stuart, author of Shaggy Bane, winner of not just the debut book, but also the overall book of the year for the 2021 British Book Awards. So congratulations and welcome, Douglas.
Hi, Fleur. Thank you so much. It's such an enormous honour. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you.
Well, gosh, it's hard to know where to start. I think so many readers have felt such real love and powerful empathy for the characters, and for the book as a whole. And I wondered if that was your intention from when you first started writing it.
You know, I think my intention wasn't necessarily clear when I began writing the book. I didn't have any conscious thoughts about what I was trying to achieve. I just had much more of a feeling that I wanted to create as rich a portrait of this family, and especially Shuggie and Agnes, as I could. But I also knew that I was in service to the characters when I was writing it. And even if difficult things happened to the characters or times were tough, I wanted to give them their dignity by not pulling away and not answering to what the reader might expect or might hope for, but rather what was true or what felt true to me for the characters. But I've been so blown away by how people have really taken Shuggie and Agnes to heart. It's larger than my greatest dreams for the book.
You've talked about your route to publication as well, and how it was not a straightforward journey by any means. And I wondered what your takeaway from that is, what your thoughts are about the publishing industry as a whole as a result of that.
Yeah, I think the story that it took me 10 years to write the book, and then it was faced with quite a lot of rejection. I think it was 44 rejections, although my agent only told me 20 and then stopped telling me. But rejection is part of a writer's life, and it was an important thing for me to learn, not only because you have to deal with it and you have to believe in your art, but also because a book is trying to find its champion. You don't really want a publisher to publish a book if they feel very lukewarm about it, or they feel, a little ambivalent. You want someone to really want to champion your work, because it's hard to introduce debut voices to the world. But Shuggie, for much of it, was just seen as a book that was so far outside the zeitgeist, outside of the things that were selling well or what people might be interested in now, or even historical comparisons. It was hard, especially in the United States, for editors and publishers to find that comparison. And so for me, I never really lost faith in the book. That just made me feel like it was a little bit more singular, or it was a little bit more unusual on the landscape. And I was really pleased that both Grove Atlantic and Picador really would celebrate and support the book in that way. But, Picador really did such a phenomenal job publishing Shuggie Bane, because it is quite a difficult book. It's hard to connect readers with such a sad story, with a story with a little hope in that way. And they never once let me down with that. They really did very unusual things in the publication journey, and I'm so grateful to the team there.
I'm so blown away by the fact that this book is a debut. I mean, it's just amazing. But if there is any advice that you would give to another writer, perhaps at the very beginning of their journey, somebody who perhaps feels that they are on a margin and perhaps haven't found any books like currently in existence that sort of reflect an experience of something that they perhaps want to tell.
Yeah, I think actually before I give the writer some advice, I would like to just continue to encourage the publishing industry to look outside of its usual channels for finding writers or new writers. I'm not especially young, but a new writer. Stories can come from anywhere, and not all of us have the benefit or the luxury of being part of a creative writing group or doing an MFA or being able to really immerse yourself in the world of literature that is the usual channel or path for writers and publishers. And so I would like to just first of all call on publishers to keep opening their aperture and looking outside of traditional channels. writers and stories belong to all of us, and representation is incredibly important, especially within, the UK at the moment, because we have such a polarized society and we have so many people who still feel overlooked. I felt very much that I'd written a historical fiction book with Shuggie Bain, but the publication of it has taught me that it is actually incredibly relevant, sadly so, even today. And so for writers who are writing perhaps from the margins or who are writing outside of a traditional literary community, I would say keep going and, understand that your voice is necessary and is needed, and also is important to record history from a much more panoramic point of view, so that we can really show that we are here, that our communities are here, that our point of views in the country are well represented. So press on and have faith.
Oh, wonderful advice, and I want to read all of those stories. So hopefully they all come into being. I know you've only just found out, but I'd love to know what this award means to you personally.
I mean, personally for me, it's absolutely mind-blowing. I've had such a strange year, Fleur, because we all have. But, I feel, when Shuggie was about to be published, the expectations of it were very modest. As many books for a debut novelist are, but I was just happy to have my voice in the world and to be sharing these characters. And then Shuggie is really, I think it's surprised everybody, and I think I'm fair to say that it surprised Picador as well. And just as how it's sort of exploded and really been everywhere. But that's been the power of booksellers, and that has been the power of readers, to take a story that actually I think the publishing industry didn't think would be very big, and to make it their own and to make it big. And that's really, truly remarkable. So to crown that and to really recognize that as an effort that has happened at the bookseller level and at the reader level with this incredible British Book Award is really touching to me. And it means so much because it is about booksellers and it is about readers, and those are the people that I'm in service to and that I'm so grateful for as a writer. And so I'm just blown away. Thank you.
Well, thank you in return. I mean, I think your book deserves every piece of praise, every accolade it receives. I'd like to finish by just saying, I think I'm right in thinking you're working on book 3 already. So I'm wondering, building on this success, when can we expect your book 2? And can you tell us anything about it?
Oh, I definitely can. I'm so excited. Book number 2 will be publishing next April, I think, or early in the year. It is called Young Mungo, and it is a story. We leave Shuggie at the end of Shuggie Bain on the brink of manhood, and he's about to launch into his own life. And I wanted to go back and look at a parallel life, other characters that were living in the same time and same milieu. But this is really focusing on 2 young men who are really wrapped up in territorial scheme, housing estate gangs, sectarian violence, but have fallen in love with each other across this divide. And so as they struggle to be together and just simply to love each other, they're also struggling to come to terms with their masculinity and also to find its place in the housing scheme around them. The main character of the book is sent to the north of Scotland in order to make a man out of him, in order to really have him man up. And it has disastrous consequences for everybody in the book, including him.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. I mean, obviously I can't wait to read it, and just many congratulations again. So thank you, Douglas.
Oh, thank you so much, Fleur, and thank you to the amazing British Book Award Committee. And the booksellers. I'm so grateful. Thank you.